This is a Batman logo. This is a Batman logo. This is a Batman logo. This is also a Batman logo. This is a Batman logo. This is a Batman logo. This is a Batman logo. 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 This is not a Batman logo. This is a Night Lords logo. I'm Marcel and this is Snakeworks. So, this is the original Night Lords logo, well, one of them, before it became a winged skull. Now sadly, they didn't seem to use this logo for long, but it could be seen on a few pieces of artwork and some miniatures at the time. It was around the late 1980s and maybe the early 1990s. So as you can see, the original Night Lords logo was a red bat, very similar to the Batman logo, so that's another Batman reference for all you Night Lords fans. Now I think maybe the first time it was seen was in the Realms of Chaos book, Slaves to Darkness, or Lost in the Damned. I could never quite tell which one was which. Which one had them in? You know, the first Chaos book. Their armour has always been variations of dark blue, but there was one piece of art where it actually looks so dark it almost looks black, so we need to keep that in mind. Now these schemes were mainly seen around the first edition of the Space Marine game, the first edition of what we now call Epic. So being a fan of the Oldhammers, I felt I need to use this scheme as the base for my Horus Heresy Night Lords. For a bit of fluff in-game, we shall say maybe they are very early Crusade era. They've only just started using the blue. That means we can still have a lot of Codex Grey around, especially on our vehicles. Codex Grey on vehicles is also very Rogue Trader, so very era appropriate. Okay, so now we know what we want, we need to have it designed in a nice, clean manner. I'm not very good at designing things myself like that. Drawing Space Marines on computers is not my forte, so I felt I needed help in this regard. So I got in touch with Dave, Design Jobber, over at Instagram. He does absolutely fantastic graphic design work. Some of his Space Marines are absolutely incredible. So I had a chat with Dave and told him what I wanted. I showed him some reference images. He quickly turned those around into some of the best designs I think I've ever seen. So here are the results, and I think we can all agree they are absolutely fantastic, and I would strongly suggest checking out Dave's Instagram. I shall put a link up now and in the description below. All the right notes have been hit. The dark blue armour, the Rogue Trader era helmet stripes, the logo, which I think looks amazing, and he's even managed to work in some of the iconography, you know, the little crescent moons from the epic scale banners of the time. I didn't even think of that, so well done, Dave. Now some Marines have red shoulder pads, so that's something else we need to work in. So here's my plan. The armour will be blue, obviously. Now sergeants will have 2 red shoulder pads and squad leaders shall have 1. Any iconography such as tactical markings or numerics will be in yellow. There will be red helmet stripes, of course. Now vehicles will have a mainly blue base, but like I said, with a lot of Codex Grey. Now regarding those very dark blue, almost black Night Lords, we need to work those in too somewhere, so I will probably use that for command squads, just to differentiate them a little bit. The standard Space Marine bolters shall be silver or metal. I might even give the big weapons, like heavy and vehicle weapons, a red casing too, for a bit of colour. What do you reckon? Anyway, let's get to painting. Now, these Oldhammer Night Lords often have the Khorne logo on them somewhere. I think they might have even been an attempt at an affiliation back in the day. They were going to send Night Lords Khorne's way, but that never really happened in the end. So maybe that was just like one little warband somewhere or something. I'm not 100% sure if I want to add the Khorne symbolism yet. That's something we'll decide later on. What do you guys think? Shall we add the Khorne or should we not add the Khorne? Not cornflakes. The hell is that on my leg? It's a nappy wipes lid. Get that out of here. Okay, so apparently I forgot to paint the knee pads on the dreadnought, so let's get those finished first. This is the grey I was talking about in the scheme. Codex Grey looks brilliant on vehicles, in my opinion. I've a smaller dry brush for this. Again, it's a makeup brush. This one is a Jessup 230 Luxe pencil, and it looks more like a brush than a pencil to me. So over the black primer, this is my first paint colour. It's Vallejo model colour, dark grey. It's a very dark grey and almost black. It's a nice stepping stone towards our lighter midtones. Now, if you were painting to a higher level, perhaps for Golden Demon or a local painting competition, or maybe just some pieces for display, I would recommend you add a lot more steps in between here. I'm sort of trying to condense a bigger method down into a few smaller, faster steps. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Let's hope this time it does. Now, using the makeup pencil, I still think it's a brush, I stippled inside the panels and then dry brushed the edges. A technique I'm trying to borrow from Byron over at Artis Opus. Here's a link to that channel. Now here's the results of that first dry brush. As you can see, it's very subtle, yet still noticeable. You could probably just add a final highlight to this if you were painting black, and I shall try to remember that. My next grey colour up is a bit of a jump in brightness. It's a Vallejo model colour, basalt grey. This one is so old, whatever I put in there as a mixing ball has started to rust. It doesn't seem to affect the paint too much though, so I'm going to use it. Also, look at that crinkly sticker. Weird. So regarding that rusty paint pot, I think the reason it rusted is because I used an old screw. Put a metal screw in there and hoped to use it as a paint shaking ball rattle thing. What do they call it? An agitator is the correct term. But what I use nowadays is these metal BB balls that came in a big bag. I once tried the glass or ceramic versions, but I found they would actually break and turn into dust. And that once clogged my airbrush, and that was terrible. Using the same technique as before, but aiming more towards the upper side of the knee pads, we then applied this colour. Make sure you check which way is up on the knee pads. You don't want to paint them upside down like I nearly did. Now, paint always looks a lot lighter when it's wet, which can sometimes be a bit scary. Luckily, for some reason, the paint dries darker. There's probably some scientific reason for this that I would like to know about. If you know why, then let us all know in the comments below. Now, the weird thing is, not sure why I'm rubbing my hands, it's not cold. The weird thing is, I'm sure I read that if something is glossy, it looks darker than something that's matte. And yet there I was painting stuff that looked lighter when it was glossy and then dried darker. So what's the deal with that? Is it darker when wet or is it darker when dry? We need a colour scientist in the room. Do we have any colour scientists here? If you know the answer, please let us know in the comments below. Now we have another wrinkly paint up next. It looks like it's been in the bath for a long time. This time it's Vallejo Game Colour Stonewall Grey. If anyone knows the Vallejo model colour equivalent, please let me know, as I think the Vallejo model colour formula is better than the Vallejo Game Colour formula. So again, it's the same technique as before, but again we are trying to hit a smaller area inside the previous painted area. It doesn't matter if you go over the lines or mess up, it sort of adds to the effect. We like happy little accidents. Now when that's done, we can stick the knee pads on the dreadnought using plastic cement. Again, I had to try and remember which way was up and had a little panic attack when I thought I might have painted them upside down, even after checking. It's really quite warm in here today. On the second page. Oh shit. All fallen over. Now if you are painting in sub-assemblies, which I assume a lot of you are, I would always recommend before you paint things, just check you've got things the right orientation, the right way around. Otherwise you could paint your highlights upside down, and nobody wants things like that. Or you could put them on the side and it won't match. You need to see it as one cohesive piece. You're one cohesive piece. So luckily, it turns out I had painted them the right way up. Good. Nobody likes repainting miniatures, do they? I have to say I'm really liking the blue and grey scheme. You don't see that very often, do you? So as we mentioned before in the introduction, we are going to have some red panels on certain Marines, the sergeants and the squad leaders. That's for if you want to split a 20-man team into two 10-man teams, or squads. Was it called combat squadding? So to paint a red, I need a red. For my first red, we shall be using Citadel Khorne red. I'm not sure why I picked this red, but it was the first dark red I saw in my box of paints, which I haven't unpacked yet. One day we shall unpack the lot, but not today. There's probably some more reds in there somewhere. Did I say red a lot there? Now regarding that Khorne red paint, I don't know if it even exists anymore, but that's not the point. The point is you just need a dark red. Anything like these paints I'm using would suffice. You could use your Vallejos, your Citadels, your Pro Acryls, which no one's able to get hold of. You could use Scale 75, but I don't like those at all. There's Army Painters, which I've never tried. There's hundreds of different paint brands on the market. Some perform better than others. A lot of it, I think, comes down to personal taste, so you have to try them and see how you get on. So I thinned the paints a little bit and gave all the red panels, or panels I want to be red, a layer of red paint. I don't show it in the video, but I did go back in when it's dry and gave it a second coat to make sure we have nice coverage. What do you think of that, Duncan? When that's all done, they look a bit like this. I've also decided to do some red panels on the Praetor guy. I'm going to make it up as I go along with him. I have no specific plan in mind, but I felt a halved pauldron would be interesting. No idea on the second colour yet though. Any suggestions? Now, regarding this Praetor here, I'm half tempted to repaint him a different colour rather than the blue, just to differentiate him a little bit from the rest of the army. Maybe black or even white perhaps, or maybe gold, or silver. Silver might look quite cool. I want a cold colour. I like me cold colours. Oh, a really itchy leg. I do apologise, I'm scratching my patch here. But the one issue is with repainting is all the time sink, and the whole point of this is to try and get it done ASAP, or ASP as my old friend Carl would say.
Now whip it!
Move forward, move ahead. It's not too late to whip it. And if you understand that reference, then please let us know in the comments below. And I don't have a flower pot hat, I'm afraid.
To whip it! Whip it good!
Another part we discussed being red is the helmet stripes. This was not easy to do with a camera in your face. But what I am doing is just painting a red stripe down the middle of the helmet. This is only applied to the Mark VI Space Marines. I even did it to the sergeants, but not the Praetor. We didn't do him either. After some careful application and trying to be as neat as we can, we end up with this. It looks a bit like a Crimson Fist, doesn't it? Maybe we shall try those next time. Are there any Crimson Fist fans out there? After what felt like a rather long time, we managed to paint all the red parts on all 51 Marines. I think it felt longer than it actually took. Factory line painting is a lot faster than individual painting, especially with a lot of miniatures. I do have to say I think they look nice so far. Now, the factory line method of painting, I'm looking at the factory line over here, is always considerably faster than painting individually, I think. I'm pretty sure. The one thing it does do is it saps your mojo. You can find that factory line painting really puts you off painting for ages, so it can be a bit dangerous for the old mojo. However, if you put something interesting on the background, such as a nice film or some music, you can sort of do it while you're watching TV, as hopefully you're doing something that's quite easy and you don't have to pay full attention. By the way, if you want to get your hands on your own Horus Heresy boxed set to factory line your painting, then you can check out the link up here somewhere. I would recommend it. It's a very good set and very good value for money. Plus Mark 6 Marines are brilliant. So to brighten up our red, we need a lighter red. And I like this Vallejo model colour, Dark Vermilion. I think the name Vermilion has something to do with red or blood or something. Does anyone know where that comes from? Let's move on. So using this paint, we then highlight our previous layer. This paint is really translucent, so again it's got a couple of coats for better coverage. I think Duncan Rhodes calls it 2 thin coats? So has anybody out there actually tried Duncan Rhodes 2 thin coats paint line yet? Are they called 2 thin coats or are they just called Duncan Rhodes paints? I haven't seen them in the shops my way, and I haven't heard of anyone that's actually used them yet. If you've used them, please let us know what they're like in the comments below. Maybe we'll try and review some later. Duncan, could you please send some my way? Yes, Marcel, I would love to. So after highlighting all our reds, including the helmet stripes, we are now ready for yet another red highlight. If you are more worried about speed painting and getting the miniatures on the table quickly, you could just call it done here. I probably should have done. These are certainly not for Golden Demon. So this might look like the previous colour we used, but it's not. This is just standard vermilion. It's a lot brighter than the previous colour and is a really lovely red tone. I love it. What's your favourite red? Let us all know in the comments below. So we now apply this new highlight colour to our red areas. I'm concentrating on the edges now and the upwards facing panels the most. I think they call that volumetric highlighting. Squidmar Miniatures talks about it quite a lot. By the way, if you've not seen Squidmar Miniatures, I suggest you quickly go and check him out. I love their painting style. I say they, as Lucas is on there now, and he's amazing. Now, as my eyes were starting to feel the strain, I took a little break. I'm a big fan of oat and raisin cookies, so gave these ones from Sainsburys a try. They are nowhere near as nice as the Tesco ones, and we won't be buying those again. By the way, when highlighting the helmet stripes, I was trying to paint a thinner line inside the previous stripe line each time. It was a bit finicky, but gives a better result at the end in my opinion. So anyway, we now have this. Only one more step to the red, then we can move on to something else. So I'm now going to add just a teeny touch of white to the mix. Probably like a 5 or 6 to 1 ratio when I say mix. I mean, I add it to some of the previous colour. The white I'm using is Vallejo model colour white, and I really like it. I've yet to try that Pro Acryl, and I've heard very good things about it. Have any of you guys tried it? What's it like? So I want to know what you think the best white paint out there on the market is. A lot of people say that Pro Acryl stuff. I'm still using Vallejo model colour white. The issue with the model colour white is it says on the side of the pot. If you're enjoying this video, then please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. That means you, Lucas. So for this last highlight, I just edge highlight everything really using the side of the brush, which I hate. I also do some little scratches with it here and there, but nothing fancy. I want these finished this year. I would normally do a more extreme highlight if there were less of them, but I feel this is enough for 51 miniatures. Now, whilst painting those highlights, I had an idea. Should I attempt to paint all the metals with non-metallic metal? Now, interestingly or worryingly, I've never ever tried it before and also want to try to condense the steps to make it fast too, so I feel I might be setting myself up for a huge failure. But nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? I tested it on one of the Marines, and for a first attempt, I think I'm quite happy. So let's do it. Now before we do the grand unveiling, the creaky chair, I just wanted to say, if you are enjoying the content on this channel, then please consider joining the Patreon, the link to which is in the description below or up here somewhere. Alright, let's raise the curtains on the results. And here they are, all 51 or 52 miniatures, including the dreadnought, now ready for the next stage, which might be that non-metallic metal, so wish me luck. I think they look wonderful. Anyway, if you want to see some more videos in this Horus Heresy painting log series, and I know you do, then check out the playlist up here somewhere. As always, thank you very much for watching, and always remember to drill your barrels.